Lorna here, and welcome to our episode of Real Talk for DONs. This week, I want to talk to you about us having to clean up the mess. Before we get started, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, MCB Nurse Consultant, where you can catch the Real Talk for DONs every Saturday at 9 a.m. So, I want to talk to you today about us having to clean up the mess as a director of nursing. And when I say that, I don't want to say that in a negative way, but I want to keep it real because that's what we do on a Real Talk for directors and nurses. How many times as a director of nursing you had to come back and clean up an investigation? Or how many times you had to come back and clean up a dispute between the team members? And it's not because your team didn't know what to do, but did they really follow through the way they should have? I've been through those type of situations. I can honestly say last week was crazy at my facility. We had multiple investigations because things happen, and a lot of things I was kind of chasing my tail because things weren't done in the front end. We have to, as the directors and nurses, teach our teams how to do things in the front end. And the team members that you really have to teach those to are your LPNs and your RN supervisors. When investigations or critical things happen in your building, ideally you're going to be called. And we understand that. But you're not in the building. While you're not in the building, you want your team to be able to start getting statements, investigating. The investigation starts the minute the incident happens. Start getting statements, start investigating, and start teaching them to think that what could be the worst case scenario in this situation. By the time you get your call, they should have some facts to tell you. Does that always happen? We know it doesn't. But we want to get them to that point, because if we can get them to that point, it can make our jobs a little bit easier, and it can make us less stressful and be able to enjoy our time at home when we're at home and we get those calls. So how do you do that? One, you got to start looking at your team members' personalities and understanding who is strong and what they're strong in. And when you start doing that, you're able to help them communicate to the other team members. So, for example, as you know, I am a coach and trainer for the bank methodology. It's a personality science that helps you be able to understand and communicate with others and be more impactful and influential up to 300%. Understanding their personality can help you direct who's going to do the job and who's capable of doing the job. Because sometimes your own supervisor could be extremely good in one area, but they may not be good in this area. And to being able to have good rounded is that's a bonus in itself. But you want to be able to understand that. Now, if you want to learn more about the bank methodology, I want you to click the link below so you can take a free personality test and learn more about the bank methodology and set an appointment up with me so I can teach you more and more in depth about the bank methodology that you can use for your team. But understanding the supervisor or the nurse's personality and them being able to understand the individual's personality that they're dealing with, whether it's another team member, if it's a CNA, a housekeeper, or if it's another nurse. So that's one way you can help them. Other way you can help them is pull them in when you do those investigations. Pull them in, show them how to do it, and show them how to be able to help them what steps they need to do. Make checklists. Make checklists for investigations so they can understand, to get the statements, to make sure they're calling you, getting the statements, and what questions to ask the individuals when they do it. Because it's so important to get those things at the moment it happened, because it's fresh in everybody's mind, and it saves you time by the time you have to come in the building. And you might not, if you can get them to do X, Y, and Z, it will save you from having to come into the building until it's time for you to do your part. or if it's time for you to do the actual reportable to the Department of Health. Because some of these investigations may not be reportable, but you still need to investigate them to figure out what happened. It could be as simple as a family complaint. It might not be an abuse situation. It might not be a situation where you have to report anybody. It could just be a family member that has a complaint. But if you're able to get X, Y, and Z done first, that can reduce, and we can able to get an answer to this family member, that can reduce angry family member from calling the Department of Health, or an angry family member from calling your compliance line, or even for the next level, calling your CEO. In my organization, they don't call the Department of Health a lot, but they do call our CEO. So you want to be able to get ahead of that. But it can be so frustrating when you don't have those things in place. Am I going to sit here and say that's always in place in my organization? No, it's not. But I have identified from last week some gaps that we really need to work on. So going forward, we are going to have some one-on-one meetings with our supervisors and teaching them how to do those actual investigations and what to do. I hope these little tidbits help you, because it is so challenging coming back and having to fix things, and on top of everything else that you have to do. Ideally, we're coming back after, especially on a Monday morning, you're coming back after the weekend trying to fix everything that happened with clinically, if there was falls that happened, if there was anybody sent to the hospital, with call-ins or call-out, whatever you may call it. And here in the Pittsburgh area, we call it call-offs. I know a lot of people call it call-ins or those situations. Then now you have to deal with getting statements because there was a complaint from a family member, or there were statements, or there was an abuse allegation, and we didn't get the statements the way we should have gotten the statements, or we didn't ask the questions that we should have asked the questions. And ideally, they're going to call you, but are they calling you while the person's still in the building? Or are they calling you after the person's in the building? Or is it something that we don't find out because it's truly not, it wasn't even reported to us until the next day? So you want to try to teach your supervisors to be more in tune of what's going on. Groom your supervisors as mini DONs. They should know as much as going on in the building as you do, and sometimes just a little bit more, because they are your eyes and ears when you're not in the building. I know how challenging it is being director of nursing. I've been doing it for 17 years. And as I coach and mentor directors of nurses, I'm still an acting director of nursing. So I totally understand. I totally understand where you're coming from, how challenging, how overwhelming it can be. But we can find ways to make it better. You can find ways to make your buildings better, and to take some of that having to do it all off of your shoulders. Because ideally, that's what they think, that we have to do it all, but we truly don't. And that's what I do at MCB Nurse Consult. And I help directors get over the frustration of having to do, frustration and exhaustion of having to do it all, so they can have better clinical, professional, and personal outcomes. And that can start with just how we clean up the mess. So again, I don't want to say mess in a negative way, but sometimes it is what it is. We're coming back and we're cleaning up the mess. And it can be frustrating. It can be extremely frustrating to us, because it puts us a day or 2 days behind in the work that we have to do. And then you're continuing chasing yourself, trying to chase people, trying to call them, waiting for them to call back. Then if they don't call back, you gotta take them off the schedule. It could just be a trickle-down effect, where if we can just learn and give our supervisors and teach them, cultivate them in a way that they can catch this in the beginning, it so much can help you. So I want you to just remember, as a director of nursing, you're going to have that frustration, you're going to have that exhaustion, but you truly do not have to do it all. And I can help you learn how you do not have to do it all. This is Michelle Carter from MCB Nurse Consultant, and you're on the Real Talk for DONs. Before we get done, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, MCB Nurse Consultant. At the bottom of this video, I installed a link where you can do your own bank methodology personality test and get a chance to understand what your personality is, so now you can start learning how to learn your team members' personalities. I hope these are helpful for you, and I can't wait to see you on our next episode of Real Talks for DONs. See you next week.